This is CBC Vancouver News.
Another deadly avalanche in BC. Police confirm at least one person has been killed in a slide near Invermere.
Is that all? We are really frustrated about it.
From small businesses to seniors, who's feeling forgotten in the provincial budget? And Surrey's Vaisakhi parade is coming back after 3 years of COVID cancellations. Good evening, I'm Dan Burritt. Thanks for joining us. Another deadly avalanche has struck in BC, this time near the border with Alberta. The RCMP confirms at least one person has been killed after the slide near Invermere, and others are seriously hurt. Emergency officials say 4 people were taken to hospital. It happened around noon local time near Panorama Mountain Resort, about 300 kilometers west of Calgary. The resort says the avalanche took place outside its boundaries, but it closed some of its upper lifts to help those rescue teams. It's not clear how many people were caught on the slide or whether search and rescue operations are still underway. This has been a deadly winter for avalanches in BC. Before today, 9 people had been killed, including a search and rescue volunteer, 2 off-duty police officers, and 2 brothers visiting from Pennsylvania. Avalanche Canada has compared this season's snowpack to conditions 20 years ago when 25 people were killed. They continue to urge anyone thinking of heading into the backcountry to check the avalanche forecast and be extremely careful. Once again, the RCMP confirms at least one person has died in a slide near the Alberta-BC border. The province is doling out a lot of new money in its new budget, announced yesterday. Still, many groups feel left out, including some seniors. As Michelle Gassoub reports, advocates say the government is ignoring the reality of our aging population.
In BC's 182-page budget, the word seniors appears just 5 times. Advocates wondering why they weren't a priority.
It's hard to have a reaction for what's in it for seniors when we're thinking about this year's budget, because the answer is almost nothing at all.
The budget does allocate some funds for capital projects, including $431 million for 2 new long-term care homes in Vancouver and on Vancouver Island, around 600 new beds in total that should be ready by 2027. But BC Senior Advocate says focus shouldn't be on long-term care beds, but on ensuring people can live at home as long as possible.
The alternative to that is that they move to long-term care, which is very, very expensive. It costs about $85,000 a year to support somebody in long-term care, and the government pays about $60,000 of that each year.
Just last week, Mackenzie called on the province to scrap fees on home supports for seniors, a move Ontario and Alberta have already taken.
But to me, it would be a no-brainer to invest more now in home support services, because sometimes it just takes a few little things for someone to be able to stay, as opposed to be having to go where we don't want them to be in an expensive long-term care beds.
Advocates also calling for more rental support for low-income seniors and new funding to subsidize dentures, eyeglasses, and equipment like wheelchairs, money that would help keep people out of care.
Humanely, if you ask anyone with grandparent family, older parents, we don't want to see our grandparents go to institutional care. We want to see couples stay together, and we want to see them at home where we feel in our hearts that they belong.
Currently, 1 in 5 British Columbians is over the age of 65. By 2033, that number will be 1 in 4. Michelle Gassoub, CBC News, Vancouver.
Beyond seniors, some small businesses in BC are wondering what the budget has for them. That story from Yasmin Khanea.
This Vancouver bakery owner is disappointed.
When we see yesterday that all the budget goes to some other places, but not any part of it to the small and medium business, it was really frustrating.
The $80 billion budget includes a host of new spending measures and tax credits to renters and families.
This budget provides new targeted supports for people hardest hit by increased costs.
But business groups say it was a missed opportunity to provide cost relief to business owners.
We're a little bit surprised that there wasn't more in there for small business to support them, to help underpin them or bolster them in the challenges that they're facing now and what's going to be coming down the pike at them.
Groups say money should have gone towards reducing the overall tax burden, dealing with labor shortages, and addressing the cost of doing business. Albertas Dermas agrees, especially as he struggles to cope with the inflationary costs hitting his shop.
The wholesale prices are going up, 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 up. Every week we see like 2 to 3% of wholesale price increases.
Making matters worse is that property taxes in Vancouver will jump by nearly 11% this year. He's raised his prices at the bakery, but can't keep hiking them.
Because we are scared. We don't want to lose our customers. So we are just squeezed in between.
BC's budget does mention existing tax credits that businesses can access. The government also says it will spend more than $400 million over the next 3 years as part of a plan to close labor supply gaps. But Tasdermas says it won't help him in the short term.
We need something, we need it now, not like for after 2 years, 3 years.
Under the new budget, BC plans to run deficits over the next few years. Yasmin Raneyas, CBC News, Vancouver.
2023 has not been a good year so far for some people's financial security in Canada. The number of insolvencies has risen more than 33% in January compared to the same time last year. That means Canadians are increasingly unable to pay their debts and are filing for assistance. The Office of the Superintendent of Bankruptcy also reported business insolvencies rose by almost 40% compared to last year. Well, the numbers correlate to the country as a whole. One expert says British Columbians are facing exceptional challenges.
So what we're seeing now is that British Columbians specifically, they're spending nearly all of their monthly income just to live. So they have less money left over to make their debt payments. So everything's kind of coming to a head right now, and they're realizing that they have to do something more permanent to deal with their debts.
Rising interest rates, inflation, and living expenses are all heightening insolvency rates in BC. Now, beyond the provincial budget, the City of Vancouver passed something very large last night, as we told you, pushing a record-high tax increase even higher. Justin McElroy, of course, was paying close attention to it late night, and today, bit of a surprise, Justin.
That's right, Dan. It originally was just going to be, just a 9.7% increase to the average property taxes for the City of Vancouver's budget. That was on the docket for the last couple weeks. But then yesterday morning, Ken Sim called a press conference and said that instead it would go up to 10.7%. And he understood that voters might not be exactly happy.
Now, I know increases like this are hard. Frankly, they suck. We completely understand that. Nobody likes property tax increases. However, leadership in government sometimes means making incredibly hard choices.
And a hard choice it was if you consider that for this century, as you take a look at this chart, Vancouver has typically had property tax increases of about 2 to 4%, then rising up during the Kennedy Stewart administration to 5 to 7%, now 11%. And in case people are wondering what that extra 1% increase that was announced yesterday went towards, well, it's stuff like Vancouver Fire Rescue Services, basic maintenance of things like grass, plant maintenance, potholes, snow removal, a whole host of things. Of course, the largest increase in the budget overall, about $35 million to the Vancouver Police Department, at least compared to last year. But overall, this is going to mean the average property will see around $300 to $500 increase in their bill for this upcoming year.
Justin, this is happening in a number of cities in our region, not just Vancouver, not just Surrey. Why?
Yeah, 10.7% is on the high end of things, but certainly we're seeing lots of communities with 8, 9, 10, sometimes double-digit increases, and there's a few reasons. Inflation is one, of course. The recent RCMP contract, which has a new unionized collective agreement, another one as well. And also there was an election 4 months ago, and certainly in the case of Vancouver and Surrey and many other places, politicians want to put forward on the promises that they ran on, deliver for voters, and sometimes that means that voters will also be seeing a higher rate this year on their bill.
Justin McElroy, thanks very much.
Thanks, Dan.
To other news now, a 5-year investigation into money laundering in BC has wrapped up with a special prosecutor deciding not to lay charges. Special Prosecutor Christopher Considine has cleared accused loan shark Paul King Jin on 8 recommended charges. because there wasn't enough strong enough evidence that the large sums of money moving between Jin's clients were the result of unlawful activity. You can read more about the decision on our website, cbc.ca/BC. Current and former police officers in Nelson could be disciplined after an investigation by Vancouver police. Last February, a probe was ordered into the conduct of 8 former and current Nelson officers. They'd allegedly exchanged inappropriate messages and memes over a WhatsApp group chat, including the use of racist language. Now, Nelson Police says both current and retired members facing allegations of discreditable conduct have had those allegations substantiated. 2 serving officers have been cleared of wrongdoing. The rest can now submit information to defend themselves. The Nelson Police Department is small, just about 20 members or so. A former BC police chief says if the allegations are substantiated,
what is key here is going to be on the discipline that's given to these officers. Is it going to be enough to deter activity not only within the Nelson Police Department, but will it deter activity in other police officers that are sworn to protect communities in British Columbia? That's the important factor here.
The Nelson Police Department says it and its board have been working hard to build bridges with diverse community members, and the findings from today should not paint a negative picture on the force as a whole. BC's aging 911 emergency system is getting a $150 million upgrade. The BC government is giving the money to Next Generation 911, an initiative that allows users to contact emergency services through text. That's important for callers living with disabilities or those dealing with domestic abuse. It provides first responders with critical information like the caller's location. And if someone wants, they can be completely confidential.
What this does is take into account the different ways in which people now try and reach 911. We see a decline, for example, in number of people who use landlines and a significant increase in cell service.
The provincial funding will help offset expenses on local governments to ensure BC-wide upgrades. More money is coming from the federal government for healthcare in BC. The province and Ottawa have reached a $27 billion funding deal.
Having the federal government as a strong partner with an agreement in principle that we're announcing today means that we're able to ensure stable, secure funding going forward. Another $6 billion to stabilize healthcare in our province, and more than $3 billion over 10 years for targeted funding in priority areas where we agree with the federal government.
The announcement was made at Kwantlen Polytechnic University, where the Premier and Prime Minister Justin Trudeau met with nursing students. Some of the new dollars will go to expand access to family doctors, reduce backlogs, and support health workers. One of the items to come out of the deal is the collection of data on the healthcare system.
Another element of our plan is asking provinces and territories to improve how we recognize foreign credentials for health professionals.
Today, along with BC, Saskatchewan signed up for federal health care funding. That leaves only Quebec and the territories still waiting. BC is set to become the first in Canada to make prescription contraception free. That was announced in the budget yesterday. It includes birth control pills and IUDs. As Lindsay Duncombe reports, it begins April 1st.
At the University of British Columbia, questions about new birth control funding generate genuine joy.
We were watching, we were like, I wonder what they're asking. Yeah. And then you said it was about the birth control. I'm like, oh my God. Yeah. I think it's great. I think it's really sending a great message and it's setting a good example for the rest of the provinces. It just seems like an important step in being in control of our own bodies.
The BC government will spend $119 million over 3 years to cover prescription contraception. That's the pill, IUDs, implants, and the morning after pill. Coverage offered in just a handful of countries around the world. This family physician was part of the campaign to convince politicians to pay up. She says many of her patients don't get the contraception of their choice because of cost.
Inflation and the rising cost of living, affordability is an issue for everybody right now.
Someone on the pill can expect to save $25 a month. And the government is likely coming out ahead financially, too, saving tens of millions of dollars in costs associated with unintended pregnancy and abortion. So there's a fiscal argument and a political one, too.
All too often, these fundamental rights are under attack, but not here in BC.
The National Society of Obstetricians and Gynecologists wants to see contraception funded across the country.
If you can prevent unwanted pregnancies and therefore the cost
both physical and emotional, not just even the health costs to abortion. That's a great benefit.
There are similar campaigns to fund birth control in New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, Ontario, and Manitoba. Here in British Columbia, even the opposition isn't opposing the plan. Lindsay Duncombe, CBC News, Vancouver.
It's been 3 years of COVID cancellations, but now one of the world's largest Vaisakhi parades is returning to the streets of Surrey. The Surrey Khalsa Day Vaisakhi parade draws crowds of more than 500,000 people along the route. The procession will feature more than 2,500 participants from 20 community groups. Vaisakhi is an important event in the Sikh calendar, and organizers are excited to bring communities back together to celebrate at the Nagar Kirtan.
It's landed with a lot of excitement across the world, actually, just because it's such a significant event. So bringing it back into that space where it's available for people to interact with, again, after 3 years is quite exciting.
The Khalsa Day Vaisakhi parade in Surrey will take place on Saturday, April 22nd. Someone who is in the North Saanich area is quite lucky. They bought a Lotto Max ticket that will give them the biggest lottery payout ever on Vancouver Island. And it's apparently all anyone's talking about.
Yes, everybody. So literally every single customer, even the one who doesn't, that they forgot to buy it, they still talk about it.
The person who won the $55 million Lotto Max prize purchased their ticket from one of just 3 stores selling Lotto Max in North Saanich. The location of the vendor is not released until the prize is actually claimed. The BC Lottery Corporation says the winning ticket with all 7 numbers matching Tuesday's draw has yet to be claimed.
Across the animal kingdom, it's incredible the different types of skin you'll find.
A traveling exhibit comes to town, giving guests a deeper understanding of epidermis. You have some. Stick around. And hello to everyone watching our commercial-free live stream. Thanks for being here. There is new research that suggests getting a good night's sleep could result in a longer life. The CBC's Christine Burritt examines the benefits of shut-eye.
Are you getting enough sleep?
Pretty good, about 7 hours a night.
Good and bad. I go to bed really late. I always have my phone.
New research suggests if you want to live longer, get some shut-eye. An American sleep study followed more than 170,000 adults for over 4 years. Based on self-reported data, preliminary results show good sleep habits can lower your risk of heart disease and increase your life expectancy. For men, adding nearly 5 years. For women, almost 2.5.
Everything gets reset when people get a good quality of sleep.
Researchers suggest there are 5 sleep characteristics associated with adults who lived longer. They slept 7 to 8 hours a night, had no difficulty falling asleep or staying asleep more than twice a week, use no sleep medications, and wake up feeling rested at least 5 days a week.
If people don't sleep well, it's kind of an amplifier for whatever they have. So if you have a pain problem and you don't sleep well, you have more pain. If you're depressed, you have more depression. If you have anxiety, it'll make anxiety worse.
Statistics show 1 in 3 Canadians are not getting enough sleep.
How you get there is with good sleep habits.
Cherries are a natural source of melatonin.
And many are ending up online looking for tips. A recent study found popular sleep videos averaged over 8 million views, but nearly 70% of them contained misinformation or promoted a product or service. Content made by sleep experts can help, but fewer people are watching those videos.
I've seen things that are absurd, but you know, I think you just need to have common sense and you know, ignore that kind of material and go to a trusted source.
Which may be your doctor. Otherwise, experts say shut off your phone and go to bed at the same time most nights. It can do wonders for your health. Christine Burritt, CBC News, Toronto.
There is a new exhibit coming to Science World. Skin, Living Armor, Evolving Identity opens on Friday. It looks into the many facets of one of the largest organs of most organisms. Caroline Chan got a sneak peek.
This is a traveling exhibition. It comes from the California Academy of Sciences. It's brought to us by the Science Museum of Minnesota. It's been about a week-long install here, but it was a very long development process for them, just looking across the whole animal kingdom and also looking at the human, the social aspects of skin color. Across the animal kingdom, it's incredible the different types of skin you'll find. It's like in amphibians, you have skin that you can actually draw moisture through. They'll drink through their skin. For fish, it's covered in a layer of mucus, so that provides an extra layer of protection. So there's such diverse skin out there, the different things it can do in terms of healing. There's even lizards that can glide with their skin. Wonderful diversity you can find across the animal kingdom. So there's different samples of animal skins you can feel, you can look, you can touch. There's the idea of skin as an environment itself. So we actually have samples on microscopes that you can look at some of the parasites that live on your skin. But also, I think, from an internal, a thought and a reflection point of view. I think when you look at the human pigment and culture section, just looking at how something as simple as a change in skin tone has affected how we interact, how we create these categories, and what we can do to make things better moving forward. This is one of my favorites. It's looking at the sensitivity of your fingertips. So you need a little bit of bravery here. These are dark boxes that you want to stick your hand in without knowing what's going on and see if you can feel and detect what is inside there. I think I've got it. But then if you take your hand away, it will allow the other senses to come into play, and it turns on a little light to show you what you are actually feeling there. It's something you don't tend to think about a lot, your skin, but it is a living interface between you and the world around you.
There's a live shot of the Georgia Viaduct. We are supposed to get some sun eventually. Kuljeet Kaila will have your BC-wide weather after this.
With its sandy beaches and its crashing surf, its bald eagles and its gray whales, Clayoquot Sound on the west coast of Vancouver Island is an area of great beauty. But what makes it more, what makes it a battleground of interests, are the magnificent old-growth forests, trees that have never been cut, and the bald hillsides where they have been.
Breaks your heart to see it. It looks like a desert. I don't think that some areas on Vancouver Island will ever recover.
There are only a handful of uncut watersheds in Clayoquot Sound. Within days, the provincial government is expected to announce how much more will be cut, how much will be preserved. And local communities are at war. On one side, the loggers.
There's absolutely no justification in this world to stop all forestry in Clayoquot Sound.
And on the other side, the environmentalists.
Clayoquot Sound is a gem. Once it's gone, it will never be replaced.
But this province was built on logging. Forest products are worth $11 billion a year. They generate every fifth job. But as the timber runs low, those jobs are threatened. Timber companies are planting new trees, but it will be decades before the regrowth can support the industry. That's why the loggers need the old-growth forest that the environmentalists are determined to protect.
To me, if the decision came down to completely preserve Clayoquot Valley, it would be tragic. It would be the end of the life as you know it on the West Coast.
90% of the world's
because forestry is so important to the province's economic well-being, it is vulnerable to international boycott.
Argues that governments and industry must take urgent steps to
conserve. And around the world, environmental groups are gearing up for action with videos.
The effects of clear cutting here are devastating. 1,000 years of history can be lost within seconds.
They've placed ads in the New York Times that refer to BC's flagrantly destructive logging practices, and there are visits and lobbying by the likes of Robert Kennedy Jr.
If there was a major ecosystem like the Grand Canyon or Yosemite Park that was going to be destroyed in the United States, we would hope that government officials and environmentalists from British Columbia would come to the United States and help us fight it.
And BC environmentalists are taking the message abroad. Garth Lentz, photographer, is taking his slideshow of clear cuts to Great Britain and Germany. Will he recommend a boycott?
I would say if you feel strongly about the way forests are managed, if you don't want to support the desecration of some of the last great forests of the planet, yes, don't purchase your wood from Canada or BC.
For the NDP, it's a no-win situation. The government is expected to try to resolve this battle over Clayoquot Sound with compromise. Some trees logged, some left. But that means fewer trees cut than the industry says it needs, and fewer left than environmentalists are willing to allow. And both they and Labour may well carry their disillusionment into the next election. Eve Savory, CBC News, Clayoquot Sound.
Hi, I'm Amy Bell, and here's what's in your CBC Vancouver inbox. On March 29th, join Leanne Young at the Zilly Cares Conversation on Care, a mental health fundraiser with special guests Dr. Gabor Mate and Dr. Mariam Zainadin. Get your tickets at zillycare.com. And never miss a special programming series, event, or contest. Subscribe to CBC Vancouver's e-newsletter at cbc.ca/Vancouver inbox and keep connected with us.
The weather update is brought to you by Direct Buy Furnace, installing the most reliable heating and cooling brand. It's hard to stop a train.
Time for our BC-wide weather forecast with Kuljeet Kaila. Kuljeet, we're closing in on the beginning of spring and the possibility of more snow for the South Coast.
Yes.
What are the odds?
20 days away from spring, and we are going to get some more snow starting tonight, overnight tonight, into tomorrow, but only at higher elevations and in the Fraser Valley. Here are some of the watches and alerts that were issued today, including for parts of the Lower Mainland. The Tri-Cities and the North Shore are going to get up to about 5 centimeters. For Hope and Whistler, about 10 centimeters. A warning has been issued as well for the Sea to Sky Highway. On the North Coast, snow, 15 to 30 centimeters there. By tomorrow morning, they got an alert there as well as just at the top of Fort Nelson at the Cassiar Mountains, some snow expected there. We have a wind warning in effect for the Central Coast as well, up to 100-kilometer-an-hour winds by the water. So they're not just getting snow, they're also getting a lot of wind as well. Here's what it looks like for snowfall accumulation. Like I said, Metro Vancouver mostly will just see rain. It's outside of that where we will see an accumulation of about 5 to 10 centimeters of snow over the course of the next 12 to 20 hours, and then it's going to dissipate by about Thursday at noon. We might even get some sunshine tomorrow morning and Friday morning. As you can see, Vancouver Delta is pretty much clear, but do be careful if you are traveling, let's say, from Hope to Merritt. The Coquihalla Highway is under this advisory as well. Conditions across BC tomorrow, mostly sunny skies for Prince George and Dease Lake. Chance of some snow in the morning. A bit of flurries for Williams Lake tomorrow as well, and -3. 4 degrees in Kelowna. They'll see some flurries tomorrow as well. Our long-range 7-day forecast looks like this. Some sunshine for the next couple of days, and then it turns to mostly rainy conditions. We'll get some rain, very light on Saturday. A bit of sunshine comes back for Sunday and last Monday and Tuesday. Wednesday, we return to a chance of some flurries again. Temperatures sitting steady at around 6 degrees.
I think we'll take the chance of a 3-day stretch of sun pretty quickly.
Sounds pretty good.
Yeah. Thanks, Kuljeet.
You're welcome.
That is your late news for Wednesday. Thank you for joining us tonight. For news anytime, check our website as you do, cbc.ca/BC. Your next local news is on the early edition on CBC Radio 1. That starts tomorrow morning at 5 o'clock. Have a good night.